Hello, I'm Guelda Redman, and this is the Elevating Women in Business podcast, where we talk to women entrepreneurs and business owners and learn their incredible and unique strategies to finding success. Hello, I'm Guelda Redman, and I'm the host of Elevating Women in Business. And today we have our guest, Chana Riley. She is a realtor with Home Life Advantage Realty. And I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, because I know the life of a realtor is super busy and sometimes really hard to schedule. I want to thank you for being here. And
Yeah, thank you for having me, Guelda.
you're very welcome. I'm very excited about this. So, Chana, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Chana and what is she like?
Oh, okay, yeah. So my name is Chana Riley. I work at Home Life, as you mentioned. I've been a realtor for the last 17 years, going on 18 years. I started my career off in Coquitlam at Remax back in 2007, and then I found out I was expecting my son, and my husband was already working in Abbotsford, so we decided, you know what, we're going to leave Port Moody and make the move and get something bigger out in Abbotsford. And then, yeah, so for me, I just love community, networking, desire to help others. So for me, it just made a lot of sense for me to move to a community like Abbotsford
Yeah.
and be closer for my husband. That was the big thing for him, was the commute. And then getting to something bigger, that was what we were looking at.
Yeah, when you start growing your family, you really need more space, don't you? Those
Yeah.
toys take up a lot of room.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Even the two-bedroom condo that we had, it was like, this is way too small with a baby. It was just
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
We outgrew that space very quickly. Within a year, we outgrew that space. We're like, okay, now we should be looking at a house.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So what
Yeah.
inspired you to start your real estate business?
Yeah, so back in 2006, a friend of mine, she was working for Ani and just doing some pre-sales, and she said, Shauna, you should come check it out and take a look and see if you like it. And it was so much hype back then because the real estate market was really hot in 2005 to 2007 at that time.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, wow, this is so much fun and exciting. And I love like the customer service aspect of it because at that time I was doing accounting, like bookkeeping. And for me, that it got really boring. Like I
Mhm.
love being in front of people and when helping people like in person and versus sitting in front of a computer all day and looking at numbers and or calling for collections. So I wanted to step away from that life and move into something that's a little bit more exciting, something where my schedule was more flexible as well. And that's what that real estate allowed me to do, that to be able to work around my schedule in that way, where we were at that time we were thinking about having a family. We didn't have my son at that point, but we knew that like we needed to have some flexibility, especially for myself. At least one of us did, because my husband had set hours, but for me it helped not having the 9 to 5 to be able to work around the family schedule. So that was a big thing for me. So yeah, that's what kind of got me into real estate. What actually kept me in it wasn't the pre-sale market, because I didn't actually go end up going into pre-sales. I ended up going to more of the resale market. So for me, it was just the passion that I have helping others, and also not wanting to work for somebody else, to be quite honest with you. That was probably a
Yeah.
big thing for me. That's the almost the thing that really turned me off about the idea of, if I don't succeed, I'm going to have to go work for somebody else. And I did not want that. So I think that was the big thing for me, is like I wanted that independence and I wanted to be able to help others and
Mhm.
also have that balance, that family work balance, and to be able to dictate how much business I want to take in, how much time do I want to spend with my family. So that was a big thing for me. Even nowadays, I always think that's always on my mind. I always think, like, how much do I want to take on? I can take on way more clients than I'm taking on right now, but is that going to fulfill my life? Is that what I really want? So that's some of the things that I always think about. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
It can be really tough to keep that balance, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
For
Yeah. And I
sure.
would think with real estate as well, you never know when the next one's coming. When's the
And
next
that's
coming?
a hundred
So
percent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And actually, I was in a meeting yesterday with some realtors, and it was like a small little, I wouldn't say conference, but I guess you could say it was like almost like a little conference meeting. And some of the things they were saying about having your pipeline full, and you always have to have minimum 33 people on the go at any given time. And to me, it almost feels like that's overwhelming. Like, how do I really
Yeah.
serve that number of clients at any given time? Because they're like, some are gonna end up going delaying things because maybe their job situations changed. Anything could
Yeah.
happen, right? Maybe
Yeah.
they're like, oh, now we're looking at 2 years from now, and maybe not, we're not gonna be ready to buy now. So you always want to have your pipeline full. But at the same time, to me, I'm like, I think 33 people at any given time, like, how do I really truly service that many people? So I do try to make sure that I keep it within a reasonable amount of people that I know that I can provide exceptional service and
Hmm.
not be overwhelmed, or that they feel like they're being ignored or they're not getting the service that they deserve.
Yeah. 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 33, that sounds like a lot of people to stay connected with. And you
Yeah,
don't want anyone to feel like they're not important.
that's
And it'd be
exactly
hard to feel
it.
important when you're one of 33. That's very true.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
What is your niche? Who is your ideal client? Who do you most love to work with?
Yeah, so I've noticed I've gravitated a lot to seniors. I got my
Mhm.
senior real estate specialist certification a few years back. So I find that's been people that are downsizing, seniors. I also find there's a lot of loyalty there as well with seniors as well, and they need that extra assistance. And that's where I really excel, I find, is that helping them during the process and being there for them. Where I find somebody who's perhaps a little bit more experienced, they don't necessarily need me as much. They still need me, but they don't. It's a very different type of connection, I find, working with seniors versus working with somebody who's perhaps not at that stage or that phase of their lives. So I do enjoy that part, and then helping my clients and watching them grow and go from when I started off, I was more first-time home buyers, and there were people around my age. And now I'm finding it's ups there are people that are upsizing. Now they're no longer in a condo, they're now in a townhouse or in a house. And now they're even looking at the multi-generational move with moving in with their kids. And so they're exploring those options. So for me, I really love and enjoy that process of
Mhm.
watching my clients move up and in helping their and then eventually I'll be able to help their kids. I'm not there yet, but eventually well, I'll get to that phase, I'm sure. So
Yes. Yeah, no
yeah,
doubt. You be the family realtor for sure,
absolutely.
right?
That's the
Yeah.
goal. Yeah.
That's great because I can imagine that seniors do need a lot of help with understanding because things are so fast paced now. And I know for
Yeah.
myself, as I'm aging, hit 60 and you're feeling like things are just whipping around you. And yeah, it's hard to sometimes keep up.
Absolutely. And if you think about it too, technology has advanced so much. Like even when I first started in 2007, we were using a fax machine.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if you look, the younger generation would have no clue what a fax machine is. So
Or
now it's
pagers,
all,
right? You used to
yeah,
have like,
yeah. Or
um,
the hard copy would be like a paper copy, and it will be a carbon copy, and you'd write on the contract. And like like this is 2007. It wasn't even, we're not talking the 90s or the 80s.
yeah,
And so things have changed so quickly. And I find, yeah, some clients are afraid of using DocuSign. And
yeah.
so some of them I do still print documents for, but I've shown them how to use it. And they're like, oh, it's easy. Once you adopt your signature once and your initial once, that's it. It's there. It's ready to go. And so it's actually fun watching some of them going, oh, wow, I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting this. And so yeah, it's pretty cool, I think.
So
Yeah.
have you had any moments that you can think of that were really pivotal in you either growing as a realtor? What has made a big difference in your growth?
Yeah, I've had many moments where I've really struggled. I've had challenging times. And I think for me, the biggest thing is my business wasn't really it wasn't a very solid structure. Is where, and I was actually going to touch on that a little bit later on. But I'll touch on that a little bit more now. Is when I first got into real estate, I didn't use a CMA. I didn't find ways to really, I just thought, oh, I'll just remember their names. I'll remember the conversations. I'll remember everything. Like, no problem at all. And then 6 months later, I was like, oh, who's that person that I talked to 6 months ago? I wouldn't remember who they were or their conversations. And then I'm like, oh, shoot. And then you can't, even if you're trying to find their phone number, it's hard to because you can't remember who they are. So I'm sure there was a lot of lost opportunity because of that. So I think for me, even going back 5 years ago, I decided, okay, I really need to stick to a CMA and I need to be very consistent with that. And I think for me, that was really what helped with my business to really grow my business rather than just relying on my brain and just go on my memory and go, okay, this is what
Yes.
I need to do. So really having a really good system in place. And I think for me, some of the pivotal moments that I can really speak to are moments where I felt like everything was falling apart. The market was down, transactions weren't going through. And then I just have to keep reminding myself that, yes, this is part of the business. There's going to be times when deals are going to fall apart. Like even last year, I had moments where I was like thinking to myself, what am I going to do? I haven't had a paycheck for, I think at that point, maybe 3 or 4 months. I can't remember the exact amount of time. And I talked to the bank and I told them what was going on. I said, this month, I don't know if I'm going to make anything. I might make something or I might make nothing or I might make $35,000 just based on what I've got on the go. And the lady at the bank looked at me and going, we can't go with that. Like, we can't work with you
Oh,
by you just telling us that there's a maybe. So I think for me, and then once I was able to close those deals that month, I decided, you know what? Don't give up. Like sometimes the results, they take time, and it's like a delay. Like regardless, as long as you're putting in the effort and the time and you're doing the activities, the results will come, but we don't know when. It could be in May, it could be in August, but it will come. So I think that was the one of the pivotal, I would say, one of those lessons where I was like, okay, don't give up. Because you have those moments where you're just like, oh, I don't want to get
yeah.
out of bed. Like everything just seems like everything is just going sideways. But you're like, you got to keep going, especially on those days. You got to keep going. I think that's so critical. And I think for me, that was a reminder. And I needed that at that time because 2023 was a tough year for many realtors, for myself included. And I think that was that moment where I was like, okay, I just got to remind myself that that's what's going to happen, that there'll be a month where everything's closing, everything's going well, exactly the way it should. And then there's going to be a month where the deals are collapsing because the
Hmm.
financing isn't going through or the home inspection goes sideways. And
Yeah.
those things happen all the time too. So it's all just
Yeah.
part of the business.
Yeah, it is. And it's
Yeah.
amazing that that's very much part of every business that
Hmm.
you have to, until you've quit, you haven't failed. If you quit,
Exactly.
then it's never going to happen. But if you keep going, it will
Hmm.
eventually for sure. Yeah.
A
Yeah.
100% agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are some of the key strategies or habits that you would contribute to your success? CRMs probably being one of them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So consistency, authenticity, and
Mm.
following up. And that again comes back to that CMA is having that really great follow-up system. Like I'll have realtors in Calgary that I connect with in Ontario where they're like, oh, thank you like for remembering me. And it's because I have them in my follow-up system. So I've gotten into the habit of reminding myself, okay, on the second week of the month, I need to contact some realtors, referral partners, because they're the ones that my Calgary realtor referral, he sent me a business last year in New West. He's like, hey, Shauna, do you service New West? I was like, yeah, absolutely. So you just never know because it's not something that he could have done because he lives in Calgary. So he's just refer him out to Shauna. And had I not tried to stay in touch and send him business and try to make those connections, he wouldn't have thought about me at that time when that referral came through. So there's lots of opportunities there, I find, for sure.
Yeah.
Not letting that communication slip and just continuing to stay in touch is the biggest, I'd say that's the biggest place. That's the biggest, I think that's where most realtors fail is when it comes to building on that habit of following up and following through. Because sometimes you might not get a hold of somebody now. If you make sure that you put in your CMA or someplace that you're going to follow up in 2, 3 months from now, and you do, then you'd be amazed because people's
Mm.
circumstances change all the time.
Yeah,
Always worth the follow
absolutely.
up.
And even that networking within your own organization, your own realtor to realtor, where
Yeah,
you're not really competitors because you're in different provinces, but
exactly.
that consistent networking and checking in, it just, yeah, it keeps you top of mind. Oh, yeah.
100%. Yeah. And that's the other thing too. Like I use social media as well for top of mind awareness, but there's nothing more effective than the in person. And
Yeah.
that is definitely, I think it's in person or that picking up the phone and calling somebody as opposed to just liking somebody's post or just talking about yourself or just sold, just listed. I think we need to remember that we're humans. We need to connect on a much
Mhm.
different level than just putting stuff out about ourselves out there. We need to find out about other people and what's going on in their lives and genuinely show interest. So
Mm,
I think that's so important.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you were becoming a realtor, did you have a mentor that sort of helped walk you along the way, or do you do that for anybody else?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say I had necessarily a mentor. I feel like I was thrown into it and just did it all on my own and learned and made lots of mistakes along the way. But I've done some coaching programs and I find some of them are great. Just sharing information, even just from other realtors, just from their experience of what they've gone
Mm,
through. And then I go, oh, wow, okay. So I'm not the only one. Because sometimes you feel like you're all alone in this industry, especially if you're working by yourself and you're not working in a team. So yeah, there's been, and I've also had the opportunity to mentor a realtor for my office as well. And that was great as well. And then at the end, she discovered that was not really her passion and she wanted to go back to what she was doing before. But I really enjoyed that part of the mentorship part because it also refreshed my memory of some of the activities that I have to remind myself that I should be doing because we all have these habits and then we
that's
sometimes start going from like developing some of these good habits and then we go back to the way we were and just doing things that we shouldn't be
yeah.
doing, getting
Yeah.
distracted with activities that don't help us, don't serve us. So I think it was very helpful in that way for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I always said that the best way to learn something is to teach it. Because
Yes,
when you as you
100%.
realize, what it, yeah, it just reminds you sometimes. Yeah, that's cool.
Absolutely. For sure. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for women that are starting in the real estate field?
Yeah, I'd say believe in your value and don't be afraid to ask for help. I think we all sometimes get scared and go, okay, should I just know this?
Mhm.
And I think it's so important to ask for that help. And especially in my business, it's a very competitive business, but there's really room for everybody to succeed. There really is. That hard work, compassion, and just showing up is
Mm,
massive, really. And building your network early on and leaning on that network, whether it's your business partner or just somebody in your office or a mortgage broker or a lawyer, just having those connections and people to lean on, especially when times get tough, because they will get tough. There's no way around it. It's just the way it is. It's going to get tough. So I think it's so great to have people that you can lean on for sure, especially for us women. Sometimes we take on more than we should. So I think
yeah.
it's so important because we put on, like for me, like I feel like I put on that hat of okay, like in the morning I start off my day, I'm taking care of myself, then I'm taking care of my clients, and then I'm taking care of my family. So I feel like I'm wearing so many different hats throughout the day. So I think it's so important to just really have that connection with other women and find ways to help each other out and support each other.
I think from that, I want to jump right over into you have been a part of our networking group. And I'm just wondering what about networking is important to you, being part of a group like that?
Yeah, I thought for me, just that those connections, and one of the most important things for me too is having somebody that I can rely on and count on if my client needs, say, a mortgage broker or a lawyer, and those
Mm,
connections where I could just say, I can confidently say, you should talk to Cheryl or you need to speak to so and I think it's just so important to have somebody that you can lean on and say, okay, and trust that they're going to take care of your clients. Because if you don't have that and you're just randomly giving them somebody's name and then they're not happy, now you don't look so good in front of your
yeah.
client. Now they're like, why did you recommend so and so? They did an awful job. So I think it's just so important to have that. And again, also to have that person to talk to and connect with when you're having issues with your own business, because to some extent they can relate as well, because they have some issues too, whether it's planning their day, they're managing their business, so many different things that we can help each other out by collaborating.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, my last question. What is the best piece of advice that you would share with a woman who's just starting her business, maybe, or maybe she's been in
Mhm.
it for a while, but she's struggling and feeling alone? What advice would you give her?
Yeah, I'd say put together a list of your goals and pursue them. Surround yourself with
Mhm.
people who want to see you win. I think that's so important. The people that are around us, they really influence how we carry ourselves too when we're in business and our personal life. I think it's so important to have that, having people that will encourage you and will push you beyond your comfort level, because we have to get out of our comforts when we're starting a new business. So I think that's so important. So having that, building that community and supporting each other, I think is really critical. Absolutely. You can't do it by yourself. I feel like if you try to do it by yourself, you're gonna have a really tough time, because a lot of times we get caught in our own way of thinking. We get stuck in here and there's no way of getting out. Like you need to have somebody that's gonna be like, hey, you got this. Try this, or you open your mind up to different ideas and of what else is possible, what else you can do to improve your business. So I think
Yeah.
that's very critical. And that comes back again to networking with other women and making those connections, business, personal connection, I think is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. We had in our meeting last night, one woman had questions and it just went, everybody was helping with it, which I think is really with those of us that are, we all have, like you said, we all have those times when we struggle. Everybody does. But to have that tribe of people that you can connect with and ask questions, and you know that they are there to support and encourage you and to share as much knowledge as possible to
Mm.
help you be successful is very critical. It is very critical.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely.
Thank you so much, Shauna, for joining us today. I want to thank everyone who is here to watch, and please subscribe, and we'll be back in again with another great guest, and just keep growing your business. Thank you so much, Shauna.
Yeah, thank you, Guelda. Appreciate it.